welcome back to Edge-CGI. My name is Eugene, and in this video we're going to take all the assets that we've created, our mesh and our textures, our UV map, and learn how to properly import them into a gaming engine. We're going to cover Unity and Unreal Engine 4, both most popular gaming engines out there right now. Strictly speaking, this is not a tutorial that covers the basics of working in those engines, and in this video I just want to give you a head start on how to quickly import your assets and make them look good. So without further ado, let's start with Unity and take a look at how to properly export our maps from Substance Painter. Here we are in Substance Painter once again. Now before we start, I want to discuss something. We have layers and channels here, and these layers and channels that we have inside of Substance Painter do not directly correspond to channels that are found in Unity and Unreal Engine 4. So if we just hit export as standard channels, it's not going to display properly. But Substance Painter provides us with tools to properly convert these layers into what Unity and or Unreal Engine can recognize. So let's go to File menu, hit Export Textures, and we have a bunch of options here. We have a bunch of presets, so if we scroll down here, by default it's Document Channels plus Normal plus AO, which sounds good, but it's not what we need. What we need is a basic preset. So if we go down here, you can find Unity 5 and Unreal Engine 4. So let's see, Unity 5 Standard Metallic and Standard Specular. Now we're going with Metallic because Specular is basically the same thing, but it's a different process and different maps are going to be exported. Now in here I want to specify the resolution. I'm going with 2048, but we were working in 1024, so it's going to convert it upon export, which is pretty neat. This padding is, I'm going to leave it on. What it does, it kind of creates, it expands your map in case you're going to be using some LODs, and if you're going to apply this texture to some additional meshes that are going to be different from the original mesh. So for this one, I'm going to leave it on. Alright, so let's see. Now, channels that are going to be exported are not exactly what we need. So let's go into configuration here and take a look at what channels are being exported by default. So let's expand this a bit here. Expand it a little bit more. Alright, so let's select Unity 5 standards. You can see we've got albedo transparency. We have metallic smoothness. We have normal and emission. So these layers are written out in 4 different maps. Some of them are written in RGB channel. As you can see, albedo is written in RGB and transparency is in alpha. And then metallic smoothness is the same, metallic RGB and smoothness is alpha. But we lack ambient occlusion here, so we need to add it. I'm going to hit this gray to add another output, and I'm going to name it. You can name it with this $sign, but I'm just going to write AO here. So if you copy and paste this with the new name, is going to automatically insert your asset name in there. So it says gray here. So what I want to do is I want to find ambient occlusion here in input maps. There's ambient occlusion. I want to drag it here onto the gray and select gray channel. So now our ambient occlusion is going to be written into a gray channel in AO map. So now let's select export. Let's specify our export where you want it to export. Hit export and let it do its thing. It's pretty straightforward. Now it's done, and it threw in some warning here, but that's due to the absence of the emission channel. In our emission channel is in the preset, but we don't use it, so it kind of throws out some warning that it didn't write out the emission channel. So let's review our maps. Here's our AO, here's our albedo, and here you can see some padding, these lines that kind of expand throughout the entire map out of the boundaries of the original UV cage. which is convenient if something's going to change, like you load some LODs or whatever. Let's see, this is our metallic smoothness, and here's our normal map. Note that the normal map contains all the new information that we've created with Substance Painter, which is really neat. So you can build upon your original normal map with Substance Painter. So let's head into Unity now and see how we handle these guys. Alright, here's Unity. Your interface layout might look different, but that's okay. Find this project tab here first, because I did some layout rearrangement here, but find this project tab here, and then in the blank spot here, hit right mouse button, import new asset, and just find our asset. Here it is, and know that it creates a group and it groups mesh under the group. So kind of the way Unity handles it. So here's the group, and if we expand it here, you'll see that the mesh is hidden inside the group. Kind of worth noticing, just in case. So you can rename the group here, but you cannot rename the mesh itself. Let's delete it and rename it first. Let's call it X. And since you cannot rename your mesh itself in here, we're going to just drag it inside of our viewport and rename it here in the hierarchy. So I'm just going to call it X mesh. There we go. Now, if we select the mesh itself, there is a material tab in here. We have several options. We have standard, we have specular, just as we've discussed before. Just a different way of handling things. Where standard is based on the metallic properties of the material, and specular is specularity, which is less. It has different channels, and it's less physically accurate. So we're going with metallic here. It's called standard. All right, let's import our maps. Okay, let's go into Finder or Explorer if you're on Windows. Here's our maps. Drag it in here, and it batches imports it. Just drag and drop it inside of your project folder in your Unity interface. It takes time. There's our map set. Let's review these. So everything is fine except for the normal map. Now if we select this normal map, there's a couple of things we need to change. Now here in texture type, change it to normal map and uncheck this box here, because it's not going to be it's going to feed off the grayscale if it's checked, and this is not what we need. Now if we select the mesh again and select the materials tab, we can start dragging and dropping our maps in there. So right now this is what it looks like, and I want to start with the ambient occlusion map because I want to see the and show you the impact that it does. And so if we drag it in here to the occlusion channel, you see it kind of creates these little details. Kind of look ugly a bit, but they kind of push this, create this additional push of realism, and it's always a good idea to create a ambient occlusion map. 99.9% of contemporary games have ambient occlusion maps. So let's go and start dropping our albedo. As you can see, we now have this color here. The X reacts to light, but it doesn't react to light properly, so we need our metallic map in here. Oops, let's drop it. There we go. As you can see, these sliders have disappeared because all the relationships between roughness and metallicity are now handled by the map. And last but not least, normal map to get all the fine details in there. As you can see, it looks nice. It reflects the environment. It reacts to light, casts shadows, and as far as it goes in Unity, we're there. From now on, you can just start using your asset just like this. Now, Unity is pretty straightforward with these things, and next stop, we're going to take a look at how it's done in the Unreal Engine, and it's going to be a little bit more complicated. So let's test the lighting here. Does it react to light properly? And it appears that it does. So as you can see, the trick here is to export the right maps out of the Substance Painter, and there's not much you can do in Unity to mess it up. If you've got proper maps, everything's going to be fine, and your asset is going to look good. All right, that was easy. So let's see how easy it's going to be with Unreal Engine 4. Now, once again, these layers do not correspond to what Unreal Engine 4 wants to take in. So once again, we go to File, Export Textures, and we navigate down here and find Unreal Engine 4 Packed. Now let's go to Configuration to review what's going to be exported. Let's find it, Unreal Engine 4 Packed. Let's see if it's the right one. Yes, it's the right one. So we've got base color on RGB. We also have got alpha channel here for transparency, but usually it doesn't work. So if you've got transparency on your model, you need to add it, just like we did with ambient occlusion in Unity part. Just drag it from here. Then we've got, let's see, we've got emissive, which we are not using here. We've got normal map, and this one is the most interesting. This one is packed. This is why it's called packed. It's got occlusion, roughness, and metallicity in the same texture, but on 3 different channels, on R, G, and B. Occlusion R, roughness is on G, green, and metallic is on blue. And we've got normal and emissive. Emissive we're not going to use, but let's just not mess the preset up and not delete anything here. Let's see. Resolution is fine. I'm going to uncheck padding for this one, just to show you what it looks like without padding. Let's specify our export. Let's go and export it here in this folder. Hit open and hit export and let it do its thing. Now it's going to throw a warning again, just as before, because we don't have the emission channel. It's specified in the export, but it's actually not in there. It's okay. It usually does it when you've got channels specified for export, but they're not being exported. It just kind of doesn't export that map, that's all. And as predicted, here's the warning. Let's see. Yeah, let's hit open folder here to review our maps. And we've got 3 maps. We had 4 outputs, but we don't have emission. Oops. Okay, let's see. This is our albedo, basic stuff, but as you can see, we don't have these padding lines, so everything outside the texture boundaries is just black. So in case in case your mesh changes somehow, it's going to show and be noticeable. So this is what padding is for. But the basic albedo map is kind of the same as for Unity. Let's see other maps here. Here's our normal map with all the added details, just as before. All the nice creases that we've added, all the bolts, and cool new textures. Here's the weird-looking rainbowy map, where 3 different things are mapped on 3 different channels. Okay, so now let's jump into Unreal Engine 4 and take a look at how it handles these maps. Alright, here we are in Unreal Engine. As you can see, it's a little bit, even the interface is a little bit more complicated than Unity. The engine itself is a little bit more versatile, so I mean, it kind of requires a little bit more tweaking. So I've created a floor here, just because from the get-go, when we create our asset and connect all the maps, it's not going to look, good. There is an issue with the reflections that we've got to fix, and in order to test this issue out, I've created this standard empty scene with a floor, which we're going to be using to test reflections. Let's start with going down here, and let's hit this import button. Hit import. Find our asset. There we go. We've got a bunch of options here. I'm just going to change the scale to 10 because I know it kind of tends to be too small in Unreal Engine, and it has created a material for us right away. Let's rename these guys here. Okay, so this one I'm going to call X. As you can see, it doesn't group cages under the group, so just there's no confusion there. And I'm calling this X material. And let's go and import our maps now. Just as before, let's drag and drop them in here. Oops, didn't drop. No, let's do it again. And there we go, importing. It kind of gives us warning that it has converted a normal map into normal map. What we did in Unity, Unreal Engine 4 did for us automatically, which is nice. So let's drag our axe here. Let's position it somewhat. Let's rotate, make sure it kind of casts shadow. I didn't do that in Unity because with Unity it's a little bit straightforward, but in here we must make sure that it casts shadows, it reflects stuff, and it reacts to light because, as I've said before, Unreal Engine is a lot more powerful, in my opinion. I'm not advertising anything here, but it kind of requires a lot more tweaking. So here's our X. Let's select it here. The world view. Let's see details. Close export settings for now. And here we got materials. So we've got our X material applied. Whatever we do to the X material will be applied to the material here. Double click the X material, and here you can see Unreal Engine 4 material editor. If you're familiar with Maya, it is going to look a lot like Hypershade. So if you're a Maya user, you're going to feel at home. So I'm selecting these textures and just dragging and dropping them here. Just give it some time to read those textures. And there we go. So if you're not familiar with how node-structured material editors work, we've got these nodes here, and these nodes have outputs. This is the RGB output that kind of has all the channels in there at once. We've got R for red, we've got green, and we've got blue, and we've got alpha channel. And here's the default node that I'm just going to delete right now. So as you can see, it kind of outputs the RGB here to the base color. I'm deleting it, and instead I'm going to use our albedo map. I'm going to drag this. This is really straightforward. Just drag this RGB and connect it to the base color, which means the RGB information from the map is going into the base color of the material. And here we have our preview sphere is updating nicely. So now let's do the same with normal map. Connect it to normal channel, and with this guy everything is a little bit different because this is what is called pack texture. Now we've got three channels here. We've got red, green, and blue. Red for ambient occlusion, green for roughness, and blue for metallicity. And each of those channels has pixel values from 0 to 1 that contain the information about how much the effect of, say, metallicity is prominent in there, if that makes any sense. So 0 is non-metallic, 1 is fully metallic. So here I'm connecting the red channel, only red channel, with ambient occlusion. I'm connecting green with roughness, and I'm connecting blue channel with metallicity. So whatever is bluest will be most metallic, whatever is less blue will be less metallic, and same with green and same with red. So as you can see, glittering here, it reflects, everything's beautiful. Here's the power of contemporary state-of-the-art gaming engines. Really beautiful. And as you can see, those dark parts is where there is no information on roughness, so they're like completely smooth, but it's not going to show in our model in the end. It's just a preview. So we hit apply button and close this window here, and it will take a second here to load the changes, so we've got to be patient here. And here we go. But let's zoom in, and you'll see that it doesn't look as good as it looked in Unity. What's the reason for it? Well, the reason is I'm going to demonstrate it for you here with this floor that I kind of left there. The thing is, there's a skybox. In Unity, it is reflected by default. There is a standard um, standard reflection probe, but with Unreal Engine 4, it's not as straightforward because standard reflection probe does not include skybox. And so what I'm going to do, I'm selecting this root here, the top unit, and right-click World Settings. So what I want to do here, I want to change some parameters in World Settings. And I want to start with first creating a new material just to demonstrate something here. Then we'll change the parameters. So I'm calling this material reflection. I've just hit add new material there. I'm going to apply it here and double click it. And I'm going to right click this blank space. So right now it's black because I've deleted that default node. So I'm going to hit blank space here, okay, and type in constant. Alright, so constant. Just like in mathematics, it's just a constant value that is being output from here, and I'm going to output it to roughness because I want this to be really smooth, really reflective material. This will do. Let's hit apply and close this material editor here. So we'll update in a second. You'll see what the problem is on the bigger scale. The problem with the X on the bigger scale. Okay, so here we go. As you can see, it turned black. And if we zoom in and change the angle, you can see some of the it reflects an X a bit, but also it reflects the skybox. But it reflects only the part of skybox that is visible to the camera. So if we zoom out, we see more of the skybox, and more of the skybox gets reflected. So if we zoom all the way out, the entire skybox is reflected. So it looks like pale, like stale water now. But as we start zooming in, we see the boundaries of the skybox. And this is not what we want. And essentially the same thing is happening on the X, because everything that is outside of the boundaries of the skybox that are being reflected is turning black, and we need to fight it somehow. So let's go into the World Settings tab that we've created before. Okay, here's our material. Let's go into, here's the World Settings tab. We need to find the Light Mask tab inside of it. And if we expand it, there is Environment Color. Now, right now it's black, so let's go ahead and change the color. So click here and then click this new part here, and just, you know, try to figure out what kind of color we want. Something maybe closer to the color of the skybox here. Let's see, something more pale maybe. Hit OK, and as you can see, it kind of changes, and I want this alpha to be at the maximum value. So you know, just in case. And what we also need to do in Unreal Engine, you need to rebuild your lighting. So I'm going to hit this build button here. I'm going to hit this, and it's going to rebuild all the lighting and recalculate all the reflection boxes, reflection probes, what have you. It's going to be recalculated, and that is something that you do a lot when working with Unreal Engine. So you know, you gotta get used to it. So something went wrong. Let's build it once more. It's building lighting right now, and light build completed. Okay, so I'm not sure if you can see it, but I mean, it doesn't look like it has changed a lot. So let's go ahead and type in sphere reflection capture, and this is the essential part that we need. Now, this thing is sort of works like it scans the environment and it creates the reflection map. And as you can see now, it reflects everything, even when it comes out of the boundaries of the camera, and as the albedo effect, even, you know, as the albedo effect is changing, the part that was black before is okay now. We have I've opened this reflection capture tab here, and there's like a bunch of different options here. You can specify a specific light map, reflection map, or cube map that you want here, but you know, that's more like in-depth kind of thing. Now let's zoom in here and take a look at our X if it looks better, and yes, it does. It now reflects either the default environment color or the expanded skybox that we've created with the reflection probe. This might not be the most elegant solution, but if you need things to look decent without tweaking everything that the engine has, this is one of the ways of doing that, especially if you're not, you know, engine savvy programming kind of person. And that concludes our tutorial for today, and at the same time this concludes the series that we've been doing for quite a while now. I hope you find this tutorial, this particular video, and the series in general informative. And if you did, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, and be sure to check other videos on the channel. There are plenty of great tutorials on Edge-CGI. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.